Welcome back to the Spin Cycle Podcast, everybody. I'm Caley Fretz.
Hello, I'm Jonny Long.
I'm Kit Nicholson.
And we got a great show for you today. The UCI has Roglichified the 3-kilometer rule. Pogačar already won in rainbows. Strava's robots are shaming people. And we're headed back to Ineos Corner. Let's get to the show. So we're going to get to chat about Tadej Pogačar winning already in rainbow bands, and in fact, the sort of collective action, the riders protesting just this morning to not race Tre Valli Varesine. But first and foremost, we'll get a little UCI update. This is always top of the run sheet for us. Kit, what happened here? The 3K rule is changing, and I know this sounds like just a bit of sort of backroom Swiss admin here, but it is kind of it's an interesting change.
Yeah, and it's slightly muddy at the moment, at least what I've been able to find out about it, and it still seems to be in the rumour stages or the suggestion stages. But it looks like there's a push to, we've already seen the 3K rule change to a 4K rule in some instances, and we're all very familiar with how often appeals are made. But as it stands at the moment, if you crash or get a puncture in the final 3K, you get the time of the group with which you were riding at the time of that incident. So it's kind of a case of accident that wasn't your fault. Don't get penalised for it as long as it's in the last 3K. So the proposed changes, it's been framed around Roglic's incident in one of the mountain stages at the Tour de France, when he hit a slick corner, a bit too hot, came down, lost a bunch of time. He'd been with Remco Evenepoel at the time, and in the initial results at the finish, he'd lost a chunk, but they were amended to the same time. And so basically what it looks like it's going to be, this proposed new change, is that if you have an incident on your own, then you may be penalised. But if you're in a group, then you'll get the same rule as applies now. So I think you can tell how confusing this could potentially be. And the way that I read this is, so all very well, incidents like that where, it's the wording is accident, an incident that is out of your control, which, puncture, crash, whatever.
Doesn't this just to sort of continue that theme, though? I think the issue with that Roglic incident was that it was in his control, right? Like it felt weird. It felt weird that he got the same time as the group because he just crashed himself out,
and
right?
everybody else managed.
Everybody else managed to get down the hill just fine. Now, granted, if I'm remembering the descent correctly, it was very, very slick.
Yes.
It had just recently been raining. It was mossy, and so all the riders were saying that it was very dangerous, and that may have sort of contributed to the jury coming in and saying, okay, well let's just give them all the same time. But this feels like, within the spirit of the rule, this feels like an update that actually makes a lot of sense. Like if you crash yourself in the final 3K, you shouldn't get the time of the riders that you're with. Like that actually just opens it up for potential misuse, right? Same thing with the mechanical at that point. You could claim a mechanical in the last 3K and get the same time as the group you were with. It's too bad Ronan isn't here, because I think Ronan has actually told this story before, right? Where he there's a crash somewhere and he just sort of laid down next to it to make sure that he could...
Oh, you see it all the time. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah. Well, not all the time, but you see the videos pop up quite often.
Yeah.
That story was actually so he didn't have to race, I believe. So it was a crash where he just had to start the race. No, it was a race where he had to start for the team, and then there's a crash early on and he was just like, I don't even want to race, so I'll just lie down and get picked up by the broom wagon.
I've seen the same thing in crit racing, because crit racing, you get what's called a free lap if you crash, right? And it's a 90-second or 2-minute lap. And so you basically have that much time to go get a new wheel or whatever you need to do. And then you can just jump back in and there's no detriment to you, right? And so you'll see sort of like a mass pile up, and then a couple dudes at the back just sort of like roll up and like pull their shorts up a little bit to make it look like they slid on the ground for a little while, and then just take the free lap and then jump back into the group. That's the kind of thing that I think, we haven't seen a lot of it in the World Tour, but it feels like a little update that makes sense, right?
Under many circumstances, yes. If it's especially if it's something that we see quite often with a particular rider, I don't know, Roglic, Enric Mas in that almost incident when he was on the attack at the Vuelta, they were already being described as, this is not their strong suit necessarily. Sometimes Roglic does fine, but we've seen him crash in the red jersey on a descent before when he went on the attack for no apparent reason. That was a few years ago now, but it's...
Can we just coin this as the Roglic rule?
Nice. I like it.
Is that rude? That's kind of rude.
It's not rude.
Well, no,
it's not rude if
it's
you
an easy
do all the
example,
time.
and there are more than one. So I don't know. It does seem a little unfair, but at the same time, valid.
I was going to ask, like, just seems like a changing of a rule that was one of the only non-grey ones into another grey one. So what would, if we just decided to have no rules in bike racing, if we went just full sort of like dismantling the cycling state and just, Wild West cycling?
Everybody on recumbents.
Or just like, so that the only thing that could police the peloton would be the peloton itself. Would that be more
That sounds like a Lord of the Flies situation. I think...
Well, it kind of already is a Lord of the Flies situation, but just with more steps, no?
More steps.
I don't
know.
I mean, you would need... that's actually a nice little segue into what happened this morning, which there's not a whole lot of sort of collective action within the pro peloton, right? That generally the peloton has really struggled to kind of come together on any particular point. Now, safety does seem to be one thing that they're coming together on, which makes the Roglic rule a bit unusual, I think, because it almost every change in the last couple of years has been toward safer riding. So basically like giving the riders less reason to do unsafe things. And this rule is the opposite, right? Like Roglic crashed because he was trying to go really fast and trying to keep up with a group that he couldn't keep up with. And yes, he ended up getting the same time. But if he'd known that they had options, that might have changed the way that he was racing. So it is unusual that this change is going kind of backwards. But anyway, so to return to this morning, it was Tuesday, right? Tre Valli Varesine, which is there's this whole sort of string of northern Italian races this time of year. And Pogačar already won Giro dell'Emilia, was it last weekend?
It was an exhibition.
It was an exhibition.
It was like the equivalent of the Saitama Criterium for the World Championships.
It was kind of ridiculous. To get into this morning though, so there's currently a massive storm kind of cruising across Europe, right? And it's supposed to be, I think it's dropping a couple inches of rain over the course of like 24 hours, which particularly in this part of the world where there's lots of valleys and it funnels the water, it's really nasty. And basically this morning the peloton just put their hands in the air. We're like, we're not doing this. Like, went down the first descent, couldn't see anything. We're not doing this. And I think that is the sort of thing, again, it's relatively unusual from the pro peloton. There is a history of it, but it's still pretty rare, right?
Especially in these conditions, when it's really, really hot, or if it's really, really snowy, then it's happened before. But it's an interesting one. It's like, rain halting play is not that usual. Although we did see in the Tour de France a few years ago that they neutralised a descent in the Grand Depart. Was that Nice? Yeah.
That was Tony Martin, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, what's damning about this particular instance is that the women's race was under the same conditions. And there are stories coming out from some of the riders saying that they went back to the communications car and were saying, this is ridiculous, we need to stop, we can't see where we're going, it's dangerous. There were cars on the course coming against the flow of the race, not race related cars or anything like that. But apparently, I mean, Brodie Chapman describes one of the people in the car just rolling up the window, which is, pretty shocking. And... So
Jesus.
it's not great. But so I'm not sure what the difference was there between the women's race and the men's race.
I would presume if you've got a race with the likes of Pogačar and Evenepoel there, and they start being like, we're going to pull out. They're the main people that turn up. They're the main attraction at these sort of smaller events. And also once these races have started, I think a lot of the time any like insurance or like what you had to pay to various suppliers and stuff is all, you just have to make it happen. We see this at the Giro, right? When we have stage starts and finishes moved around, and especially in Italy, like all of this stuff is all, everyone knows everyone. There's lots of different contract situations, so I'd imagine it's to do with that. But I mean, part of the problem is why we see races go ahead in dangerous conditions as well, is because you don't have it's not like Formula One where everything is run by Formula One. Like, we have the UCI, but there's all these like small stakeholders and small organizers who, if you lose like, I don't know, €500,000 euros or whatever, which it costs to put your race on, then that's just it. It's done. It's not like there's extra just sitting in the bank where it might be at the UCI. So that kind of pushes all these parties into doing things that they wouldn't necessarily want to do if it didn't come down to it, I guess. Like this morning, they would have everyone who worked on that race would have woken up and been like, I'd rather not go to work today. I'd rather not do this race. But if it's a choice between that or not, having your job next year, it puts it in a much harder light. But yeah, the cars on the course, and then even at the Simac Ladies Tour, which we're going in a minute as well, there's a screen grab of Lorena Wiebes time trialing, and there's just like a dude on a Dutch bike just coming the other way on the road. And
apparently she wasn't the only one this happened to. Audrey Cordon-Rogo.
Cycling just wakes up today and just sees all this and it's like, oh, not again.
Couple kind of themes out of this. One actually ties to what we were talking about last week, which is this notion of like Van der Poel being like too big to fail, right? It sort of goes the other direction too, relating to what you're talking about, Jonny, where if riders like that put their hands in the air and say, I'm not doing this, it's a lot more powerful than if others do, if random domestiques do, right? So those riders do need to kind of use their power for good, and as well as occasionally evil, as we were talking about last week. I'd say the other thing that's kind of worth mentioning here is, and maybe just some kudos, I think Adam Hansen has done a pretty incredible job with the Riders Union. And so like, if you just sort of take us back 10 years or so, I remember doing quite a bit of reporting on the CPA back then, like when Gianni Bugno was running it and things like that. And it was very like, there were sort of two factions, right? There was like a new world and old world cycling. There was sort of like UK, US, Australia. And at that point, the UK was powerful, right? Because it was Sky, and it was like there were big riders. And then the other side of that was like France, Spain, Italy. And the riders, those two sets of riders couldn't even sort of come to any sort of like collaboration. Like they just, every single time I'd talk to one of the Americans, for example, they'd be like, yeah, like we wanted to do this thing, it was going to improve safety, and then like Philippe Gilbert showed up and just like ruined it. Right? And like that's the kind of thing that used to happen all the time. And I don't think we should underestimate how difficult it's been to sort of pull those two groups together. And part of it is maybe just that the peloton is kind of modernizing, and the peloton is pulling itself out of kind of, okay, well, we did it this way when Bernard Hinault was doing it, so we're going to keep doing it that way. That sort of mindset. But it's like Adam Hansen deserves some credit, and all the rest of the folks that have been involved in sort of pulling that peloton together, because now they actually have power. Like, they stopped a race this morning. Again, like there's a handful of examples over the entire history of the sport where that has happened, and most of them are in the last like couple years.
Yeah, it's true. I think Kate Wagner's written about this for us before, like the labor relations and stuff of pro cyclists within sort of the peloton and pro arena, where it's much more different to sort of like team sports, not only because of the money involved. It's not like you can, once you get a contract, that's it. Like you're set for life. You have to be paid up for 3-4 years, and it's much more money. But it's the fact that no matter what happens with a team, or if you're at a certain level, you can kind of fall up and down these pyramids and these structures. Whereas there's so few places in these top ranks, and that if you personally don't get the results, you can't really there's no blame to be shared and apportioned around. It's you versus not just the other riders on the other teams, but against the riders on your team as well. So it just completely fractures and individualizes the whole process, which makes it so much harder. Like we see at the minute, footballers trying to campaign for fewer games and their sorts of rights as well. And despite the fact that after 2 years you're sorted, right? You're arguing over just like generational wealth amounts of money and whatever. But I think that makes it so much harder as well. You've got guys knocking around on much less money than what you think their effort deserves.
And their enemy is not just the boss; their enemy is also their teammate. Like you say, like
and
there's only so many.
Sometimes,
yeah,
like
there's only so many contracts available. There's enemies everywhere. It's a really sort of a fractured, as you say, playing field. I think that's enough union talk.
Enough doom and gloom.
Enough doom and gloom. Can we talk about Emilia? Can we talk about what Pogačar did over the weekend? I mean, that was just. It was spectacular, right? Like to show up, it's not surprising at this point. I mean, we just saw him do the same thing at the World Championships, which is certainly a harder place to do it. But man, what a way to put your foot down on the sport and say, certainly no World Champs curse for him.
Not. It's a shame that he must be feeling tired because he only went solo 37 kilometers from the finish.
Washed. He's washed.
And again, a bit like in Canada, Jorgensen tried to follow him, and I saw a great quote from him afterwards saying something like he was absolutely dead in like 30 meters, and it was less than a kilometer to the top of the climb the first time up of 5, and at the top of the climb is where the finish line was, and in like 800 meters he had 35 seconds on the closest group, and the peloton was something like 2 minutes behind. That's an exaggeration, but it was long way behind. There were groups everywhere. It was complete carnage. And there were, apparently, it may be for another reason, but Evenepoel, he was saying to everyone he can that he's very tired and he doesn't like rain. But he apparently was one of those who climbed off at the first passage of the finish line. So 800 meters after Pogačar had attacked. I mean, it was kind of fair enough in the end, I guess, but it was a tough day out, and Pogačar just did his thing and won by almost 2 minutes.
Evenepoel was saying before Tre Valli Varesine that he was like, I kind of just want to go on holiday. Like, these races are getting a bit much now. It's like, why is he still racing? There must be some appearance fee or sponsorship thing that he has to do. But it's just like, why is the dude still like? He's like, I don't really feel great. And it's like, okay, whatever. But
yeah, he said yesterday something like, or I read an interview yesterday. He said, I know what it feels like to have your batteries run empty.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a Movistar situation where he's got a sore bit, but he's gonna turn up on Saturday and beat everyone. But I don't know.
Surely Pogačar wins Lombardia now, right?
Yes, and he'll get another record, or at least he'll match another record for a number of wins in a season, which would be 25. And considering, I mean, even for Pogačar, that's his total tally over the course of his not short but not long anymore professional career is 87. So 25 in a year.
I saw. I don't know where this was, just on the random internet somewhere, that was suggesting that the reason Jorgensen keeps following these Pogačar attacks is because Visma Lease Bike are like trying to collect data on like, his power, whatever, as if like Jorgensen's some sort of like atmospheric weather balloon that just gets like put up to, try and monitor it. Yeah. Like Pogačar's North Korea or Iran or something, and they're just trying to get as clear a picture of what they're up against.
I mean, it's kind of fun. Like, Jorgensen's right behind him, right? So for that 30 seconds, you know how much power Pogačar's doing.
Yeah, maybe. Does that help? I was just like, every time.
No, it doesn't help.
Is it getting fed back to the data?
Sounds like a good way to a good fuel to cry yourself to sleep at night if you're in a Visma jersey.
Yeah, like what are you going to do with that information? Like, okay, exactly. so we know that Pogačar attacked at 900 watts for a minute, and also we can't do that. None of our riders can do that. So
yeah,
what? You already knew that.
I mean, any team was going to try and clone somebody, I wouldn't put it past Visma. Just going to keep a lookout for that.
Two things that I liked out of this weekend. One, I'm pretty excited for Pogačar being in World Champ stripes all next year. I think that'll be fun.
It's right.
I think it will look great. Good for the sport. I will dig it. Speaking of looking great, black shorts, white World Champ kit.
Yes, it was raining though, so I wouldn't put it past him to put white shorts on at some point.
Why do people like the white? Like, it's just...
I'm not saying I like it. I'm just saying this is Pogačar we're talking about.
Are you in a rain risk situation? But it just doesn't look as good. Black shorts with the white World Champ. Like, it's just, that's how it should be. It looks so much better. So I appreciated that.
I mean, as everyone knows, I've been down a deep rabbit hole looking at kits, and I was looking at some of the French national champions jerseys. And do you remember Arnaud Demar's red shorts with his tricolor national champions jersey? So what about rainbow shorts?
Yeah,
I'd like to see that. And he could pull it off. I mean, he would pull it off. He would do it. If it was allowed, it probably wouldn't be allowed.
What was this look like?
Like the whole thing was a tricolor, like one continuous tricolor, no?
Yeah, the jersey itself was the same as his jersey that he wore with black shorts. But he had red shorts that perfectly matched the red of the lower band. Yeah. So I guess, you've got the normal rainbow band jersey, but then you've got shorts with the same band stripe all the way down. It's not going to happen, but I like the image.
I think they should allow more creative freedom with the rainbow jersey.
I think that's the issue, is there isn't any.
No.
At least it does mean that UAE had rules to follow.
Yeah, unlike their national champs jerseys, which are always an abomination.
Yep.
Always.
All right, that's enough.
Wait, there's one more thing, Caley, that we've got to talk. The big mortadella.
Oh, of course.
Come on.
The giant ham.
Oh, well, it's not a ham. I had someone correct me about that. Apparently, it's technically a sausage. You can't call it a ham. There's a difference.
Is there though?
Well, the one fun thing was that obviously Pogačar looked absolutely buzzing with his like Mortadella in a metal cage and displayed some fairly good upper body strength for a professional cyclist. He like hoisted it above his head. But then Tom Pidcock, who was second on the day, second, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good ride from him.
Good ride from him. Almost like he may be in the middle of contract talks with maybe Q36.5, who knows. But he did look quite dismayed, probably just because of the effort required. But it was just great seeing Pogačar very happy with his sausage, and then Pidcock next to him just looking sad with zero sausage.
Did they have to drink anything?
No, I don't think so. So unfortunately not.
At least he didn't have to go through that.
Yeah, that was that this year he did that, or the year before.
I don't know. Anytime anyone puts a beer in his hand, he's not particularly impressed.
No.
Even if he's winning Amstel Gold.
Yeah, sorry. A more of a visual thing rather than a podcast thing, but people can go look it up. Go look at the big Mortadella.
It just, adding to our long list of things that we'd like to win in bike races.
Yes.
Right?
Has Ian done that story yet or not?
We'll have to do a Mount Rushmore at some point. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Strava is being rude to its users. We should mention Gravel Worlds too. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about Gravel Worlds when we come back. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Kit. So everyone's trying to AI things right now, right?
Ugh.
Everybody. It's like it's what you gotta do.
Am I AI?
No.
Yeah. No, this whole podcast is AI. Yeah. We just downloaded the website. We stuck it in notebook.lm, and this is what came out.
Yeah, we're actually
Weird,
on holiday.
Huh? Yeah, we're all on holiday. So what is Strava doing here? What ridiculous thing has Strava put into its what is it?
Well, Strava
Explain.
is beta testing a new feature which they're calling athlete intelligence. Can you see what they did there?
For God's sake.
And so basically it's meant to give a bit of an insight into your logged data, and it's also using all the usual data that you collate, the HR and power, distance, what have you. But it's also paying attention to the notes that you add and the title for your, I don't know, I haven't used Strava in a long time. Title for your exercise. So yes, basically, I don't really use Strava anymore, but I'm noticing increasing numbers of screenshots that people are providing with the internet, with the range of. Some of what Strava's athlete has been saying is very complimentary, and it's just like, good job, you hit VO2 max thresholds, and you're better than last week, and that sort of thing. But some people, like Simon Warren of 100 Climbs fame in the UK, he posted this morning, or yesterday, after this weekend's hill climb. We're back in hill climb season, folks. Basically, Strava had a go at him for being old and heavy, or older and heavier. And it just seems a little...
Just read it. Yeah, read it out. It's great.
So the summary goes as follows. Despite being older, heavier and slower, you still pushed hard on the Monsall hill climb, showing your dedication to training and improving your fitness over time. And then in the paragraph below, it continues, looks like you're feeling the effects of getting older and heavier, but you're still out there giving it your all on the hills. And so on.
Jeez.
So it's...
I think it's great.
This is not uncommon. Basically the theme of a lot of what I've seen, including somebody saying Strava was calling them out for eating fast foods before the ride and admitting to feeling lazy.
How do I get access to this? I just opened my Strava. I don't see it. How do I get access to it?
I think you have to log a ride, and you have to be a paid member. I think you have to log a ride, and I had a look at Strava's own site. So sometimes if you might see athlete intelligence is thinking, check back in a minute. So you get the summary after you've logged your ride, your run. I
don't know if I've paid, but I am a verified athlete.
Oh, then you might get access to it.
Fancy.
Yeah.
I want to see some. Actually, they'd probably be very boring.
So is this engagement bait then? What is it? Do we know what it is, or is this just something to please?
We're all talking about it, aren't we?
Investors or something?
They're trying to keep you on the platform more. Okay, right? Like that's the whole thing.
I think you're probably right that it is engagement bait potentially, and whether this sticks around or not is, we don't know. And I'm sure, Simon's example, this guy can take it. He's fine. He's a very, very good bike rider. But it's fat shaming and old shaming.
Yeah.
And so it feels a little bit like losing control of the monster.
I've just noticed, I've just opened my Strava up and someone took a KOM of mine, but I think they did it in a car.
It wasn't a Flagstaff, was it?
It's already been removed. No, have you guys seen the movie American Flyers?
Yes.
No.
You know the wall? You know the mortar wall?
Yeah.
So I'm tied at the KOM for that with like 5 different people. We're all at 1 minute and 7 seconds. And someone just took it by 8 seconds, but their ride is already gone. So I think they cheated.
Nice. Okay.
Cheaters.
Jolly good. Cheaters.
At least now you've alerted your KOM to a bunch of people who can go and try and beat it.
Ooh,
They're welcome to try
challenge.
to do so. They're welcome to try to do so. Like I said, I'm already tied with like 7 people. I think there's some sort of GPS like limit on how fast you can go up this thing.
The other good Strava, I don't think I've paid Strava anymore. Wasted on me anyway. But the one thing that Ronan showed me, which is really good, is this little plugin called Wanderer. I think it's wanderer.earth. Have you used this?
Yep.
Where it shows you how many new kilometers you've done
that's cool.
in like a city or a county.
Do you remember the guy Eric that I talked to? The guy in the cargo bike?
Oh yeah.
That's where that stat came from, where he was like had ridden the most unique miles or kilometers of anybody on Earth or something like that. Yeah.
It does make me realize that I am quite unadventurous and I just like going down the same roads all the time. I don't know if that's that. I don't know what that says about me. If I'm a coward.
That was similar with me too. I think it's and it's part of the Strava thing. I think in a way, maybe. I mean, there's familiarity and there's knowing that it's safe, but there's also go and get your PR or see how good you're feeling today. I mean, it just so happens that I found an old training diary that I kept almost 10 years ago, and I did actually sometimes. I've just seen in here that I put, so it's from early 2015, and I wrote down first KOM and described it. Yeah, so I had also been logging them on Strava, but I was just writing out what I had for breakfast, how the ride felt, where I went, and then reflections after the fact.
Oh my god!
So this is.
Oh, give us some of it.
We should publish this on the internet.
Oh Jesus! Okay, I'll see if there's anything worth. It's mostly just
something that won't
I had porridge and plums with black coffee, and then an espresso and a banana, and then pineapple cake.
This is like a Famous Five book or something like that.
That's a breakfast to maybe come up against Remco.
Yeah, this is
a lot of calories in there.
We need to make a graphic of all of Pogačar's breakfast, Evenepoel's breakfast, and Kit's breakfast.
I did do. Oh geez, that's all rides, all notes for one ride.
Oh my god,
2 whole pages and a recovery meal, chickpea salad, plain cooked salmon. Oh god, it was awful.
Jesus
San
Christ.
Pellegrino aranciata rosa. I was even specific about
even
flavors.
the flavor.
What flavor of San Pellegrino?
Yep.
That's amazing.
So this is like an old version of AI, but what we're going to call it, like Kit's performance.
Yeah, if you want me
index,
to judge your
KPI.
rides, folks, send them to me. I'll review your breakfast.
That would be quite a fun story. Is to like send us your ride, send us a link to your Strava, and we'll send our thoughts on your bike ride.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
All right, Discord folks, do your thing. Send us some rides. Send us some rides, and we will next week on the pod we'll read out our response to your bike rides.
That's up to that.
You have by sending us this. You need to that you're by default agreeing that we can 1 say your name on air and 2 be only kind of nice.
I've just remembered there's another notebook somewhere. I definitely got to put this into an article. I've got another notebook somewhere before when I first started riding a bike where I'd even draw the map of the ride I was doing.
Wow.
It was basically a scrapbook.
You're like Tolkien writing out alphabets in Elvish or something like that, aren't you?
Oh my goodness, Jonny, don't get me started there.
More notebooks.
All right, that's enough of that.
Yes,
Strava. This is AI, silly AI stuff. Like, just where's the value? What's the point? What's the point of this? Like, I just don't. I mean, I get the point. Like, they're trying to maybe if it gets better. Is it headed toward like a kind of coach kind of situation?
Yeah,
like,
there's an accountability element, isn't there?
Yeah, is that what they're trying to head toward? But still,
another way to get money, and another membership strand.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even really sure what is in front or behind the paywall on Strava. In fact, my recommendation to them, if anybody's at Strava listening to this, is we've recently discovered this here at Escape that you need to actually show people when they're logged in what they're getting.
Yep.
Like so I'm pretty sure I'm a paying member of Strava because I do fundamentally I use it and I believe in paying for things that I use, right? Like they're not monetizing me in other ways. They're not filling Strava full of ads, and I appreciate that, and I'd rather just pay them the whatever dollars a month to keep it that way. But I'm not even sure what of the things I use are paid. Like, anyway.
We don't try and find out now while we're on air.
This is great radio, folks.
Well, I'm just looking at it. Like, there is some things listed under subscription, but I don't know if
leaderboards, isn't it? Leaderboards
do I
is the main
have
thing.
that subscription, or do I need to get that? Anyway, the communication's not fantastic. Let's move on. So Luke Rowe's officially headed to hang out with our good friend Muggers, right?
Yep, Luke Rowe's gone to Decathlon AG2R Le Mondial. He's retiring in India as a rider. He sort of crashed quite badly in the Spring Classics this year, and that was kind of it, really. It was like, well, I know this is my last year. What's the point of getting back on and risking any more injury? So I think he did do some de-essing with Ineos at a race in the summer, but then on his podcast, What's Occurring, said that he'd had a few offers through, presumably one of them from Ineos, who really can't afford to lose any more, what's it called? Like,
talismans.
Talismans within the squad, people who've been around for a while and remember what like winning the big races was like. And someone who's been a road, like one of the best road captains for years. You know, one of the defining sort of domestiques of the 2010s. But he's going over to Decathlon AG2R, because he said he was sort of sold the vision of where they want to go. He's going to be in charge of their sort of classic squad, like leading that. So yeah, quite odd. He released like a podcast, like explaining it and saying that maybe he will be back at Ineos in a few years or whatever. But just like, I know, yeah, often riders want to change and have a bit of a break, because he's been there at Ineos for his whole career, basically for 13 years. So you might want to see what else is going on. And yes, AG2R are getting a bit more international, but as we saw in the Netflix documentary, they are still a very French team. So yeah, an odd one.
It doesn't make a lot of sense on either side to me. It doesn't make a lot of sense from Decathlon side. It doesn't make a lot of sense from Luke Rowe's side.
I mean, PM Muglak is a delight, the press officer there. So maybe he just wants to hang out with him. He's an absolute delight. And Felix Goll is a nice guy. Oliver Nelson's a nice guy. They're quite a nice bunch of people.
That's true.
They've come along a huge amount this year. So maybe they want to further freshen up their feel and their and just get some outside inspiration. And it did seem like Luke Rowe was almost giving Ineos some homework or giving them some healthy critique on what's needed there, and some of he's been a little perplexed by some of their moves in recent years, I think, by the sounds of it.
Well, maybe we don't know what the staff discount at Decathlon is. I've never thought to ask.
Got a bunch of kids.
So bunch of kids. True. He's going to have he will now have days off for the first time in his life where he can actually kind of do whatever he wants. So maybe he's got his eye on a lot of outdoorsy equipment. So maybe it'll just be a quick year, absolutely hammer that corporate account. And then it'll be him and G tackling, I don't know, the riverways of Wales in a canoe or something. I don't know.
Has Pierre gotten us our interview yet?
I haven't messaged him yet. I don't know. He probably hasn't even he hasn't even started yet. So I think I'm going to have to.
All right. Gotta wait for Luke to get in the door.
Yeah.
So what we should do is you should try to get an invite to team camp.
Yes. I'd like to go to Chambéry as well.
And get an hour sit down
or something.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Should I go skiing or snowboarding with Luke Rowe?
Yes. You probably prefer to go to the Decathlon AG2R service course than Manchester, where the Ineos offices are. Not that Manchester's not great, but it's not France.
It's not France. It's not France with Pierre. But yeah, weird one. We've got a story in the works, which is hopefully coming out this week or next week. Just on, are we allowed to trail this?
Yeah.
Coming out.
Special on yourself, so that's always good.
That's what I need. It's what gets me up in the morning, maybe.
It's a good piece. It's going to be, it's sort of a deep, it is a deep dive into what's gone wrong at Ineos, with lots and lots of new reporting and new information, and it'll be a great piece coming out soonish. Gotta fact check everything.
Yeah,
double check our sources.
Joe Lindsay.
Gotta get it past Joe.
I'm more worried about that than going to Ineos for comment, to be honest.
Well, keep an eye out for that story. I want to move us over to the contentious world of gravel racing, which, as far as I can tell, is the whiniest part of cycling at this point in time. It feels like it doesn't matter what happens, somebody in the gravel world doesn't like it, and they're very vocal about it. And in this particular case, what we're talking about is the World Champions, the UCI World Championships of Gravel, won by Marianne Vos and Mathieu van der Poel over the weekend. And the reason why people are annoyed, particularly people who sound like me, the American accent crew, they don't think it's a real gravel race. They think it's like Bike Path Worlds, which they have something of a point in that this race looks nothing like what, Unbound looks like. But let's first, before we get into this just part of the discussion, we should just talk Marianne Vos maybe real quick.
Yeah.
And Van der Poel. And let's chat about that first. So Marianne Vos, what, 14th world title, is that right?
14th world title.
4.
Yeah.
Wild.
Across 4 disciplines: track, road, cyclocross, and gravel. She's just got to get on a mountain bike and then she's sorted.
Is it since 2006 as well?
Yeah, she won her first elite road title at her first elite world champs in 2006, yeah, which is bonkers.
That's pretty...
But it's also awesome.
Did gravel even exist back then? That's the big question.
Gravel's always existed.
Should we talk about this in After Dark, just in case we get in trouble?
Feels like After Dark territory. All
right, so we're gonna go deeper on what is gravel worlds in After Dark. We'll talk about Van der Poel and Vos, and then I think there was a request from Molly on Discord. I'd like a Mount Rushmore of pro cyclist endorsements of non-cycling products, a la the Pogačar sandwich line, but I'm sure there are far more worthy submissions. So maybe we'll get to that today. Maybe it'll be next week. I haven't decided yet. We'll see how long we go. All right. If you are listening to the free feed, this is the end. Thank you for listening. Head over to escapecollective.com/member to sign up, or just head to the homepage and click on join, and then you'll get instructions on how to get the member feed, which is what we're headed into right now. We're headed into After Dark. Let's talk gravel. Everybody else, will see you next week.